Okay. So I read this book about 4 years ago and I loved it the first time I read it, and then just rereading it again just reminded me how much I love this topic. Um, I've done a lot of reading and watching different videos of people who I consider experts on this topic over the many years. I haven't looked at this topic for about a year because I've been so busy with my podcast and everything. And I take notes. I'm just going to step back and show you this. I take no, I don't take notes. I narrate in bullet point form what I have read. And I came and found I have a giant tablet. And this is my narration over the years of Truth, Goodness, and Beauty, just from all the different resources I've read and listened to. So I'm very excited to get to talk. I'm glad that this is the book everybody chose. I was leaving it up to you guys, and this is the one you chose, and it made me really happy because it's a great book. The one thing I'm concerned about is that we aren't going to be able to get to talk about all of it as much as I'd like to, because we only have an hour and a half today, and it's going to be hard to get through all 4 chapters. And so I want to so Mark is going to do the last half of the book in a week or 2 weeks.
Actually,
and
next
so
week.
Next week.
Next
Okay.
week.
So what I'm going to propose is that because this topic is so important, I am willing, with whoever else wants to keep talking about this, to meet again in like November. That we can continue talking about this. And I have 4 other resources. I have 4 little slides. I'm not going to do slides for very long, but I have 4 little slides. We're going to do just a couple picture studies because I think that this is important for the topic. And then in those slides, and I'll share them with you, I have 5 different resources of further reading and more materials if we want to meet again in November and talk about some of those things, if that makes sense, and how they relate to this book, because this is just really a huge topic and it's a really, really important topic. And the reason I'm so passionate about it and have read so much about it is because in America, this is a topic that I think is foundational, but has been skipped over in the recovery of classical education. So I think it's missing. For years, we educate your children in truth, goodness, and beauty has been the buzzword, but nobody can explain it. Like very few teachers could talk about what that actually means because it's not a foundation that's been really built. And in helping you guys build a good foundation, I really want to spend a lot of time on it. And I'm even willing to spend like the whole next year on this with there's so many good resources on this topic alone, like with Roger Scranton, and there's several other resources. There's Orthodox sources. And I just think there's some great sources that we shouldn't skip. So, but that's up to you guys. If you want to keep talking about it, I'm totally willing. And this book study can be a free ongoing conversation. We can meet once a month or something. Okay, so I decided that I want to do some brief little picture studies, because if you were my high school students and I had required you to read this book before talking about it in the classroom, I would want to do a little picture study as an introduction to our conversation. So I have 4 pictures. 4 little slides. It won't take very long to get through. And then we'll dive into a few questions I'll give you guys to have a kind of a seminar conversation. So let me share my screen. I got to find where it is. It is this screen. And it's okay. So this is a marble sarcophagus with the contest between the muses and the sirens. And I just want you to take a minute to look at it, and then we'll talk about what you notice, and then I'll tell you a little bit about it. Okay. What do you guys notice in this carving?
I can see youthful faces. So if you look at all these faces, they're all youth. There's no, they're young childlike faces. That's the first, and I can see instruments
Okay.
in musical instruments.
Okay.
There's a fallen angel in the right corner of the picture, and then in the middle of it, there's a head underneath the girl that seems to be playing an instrument, a harp or something like that.
Okay.
The ancient Greek gods. I saw the angel and the head, and then I noticed there could be Athena and Zeus. And there's some ancient Greek gods and goddesses.
I feel like it's very kind of chaotic and active everywhere, except right in the center. The central figure seems much more kind of relaxed and still.
I was thinking about where you would find something like this. Where would it be put on where people can see it? Maybe as part of a temple or on a wall or an awning or something. Yeah, it's interesting the way it's composed. Quite a narrow scene, but in compact. And like, I think that was Andrew saying it's chaotic. Yeah.
I'm wondering what's going on in the right-hand corner with the those figures. They look like those winged figures that are kind of seem to be pushed away and possibly being trampled on.
I was wondering whether they were the sirens. I'm trying to think about who's the muses and who are the sirens from looking at the title. It's a contest between them. I'm thinking about the muses maybe have a more benevolent reason to be playing their instruments, and the sirens sing sailors to shipwreck, right? So maybe it's more of a negative connotation.
So could it be like some sort of a battle? Sorry, go on.
I was going to say, I wonder if it reminds me of the Last Supper by Da Vinci. I wonder if Da Vinci was inspired by this in the Last Supper.
Oh, that's very interesting. Does anybody have any thoughts about who the people are on the far left?
One of them looks like Athena to me, the one with the helmet.
Yes, that's correct.
Seems like there's an eagle underneath the man sitting there, and he has a staff, probably sign of his authority, and an eagle is a sign of authority as well, right?
Who do you think he is?
Zeus?
Yep.
Zeus holding the staff. Yeah.
It looks like he might even have like a thunderbolt in his other hand. It's
Yeah,
hard to tell.
It does look like something like, doesn't it? And then
Yes.
next to Zeus, to his right is Hera. Okay.
Yeah.
So then everybody else so this is a musical contest between the muses and the sirens. And the muses are associated with the highest intellect and artistic aspirations. And what they're doing here is they are defeating the sirens. And we'll talk a little bit in a minute about what sirens are and what they do and who they are. But basically the smaller, which ones do you think are the muses and which ones do you think are the sirens?
I thought the muses were the ones with their clothes on. Generally, I don't know if that's an intentional thing, but I always tend to think of sirens like from sailor type stories like Sinbad or Little Mermaid or whatever.
They are definitely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Like they're more like they're more attached to nature. I don't know, and whereas muses are more like a voice of civilization in a way.
I like that. Did look at their feet too. Their feet are very interesting.
Are they webbed?
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah. Okay, so now I'm going to take you to the next example. So these are examples of the muses. I'm not sure where to put this. The bottom one shows all 9 muses. And the 9 muses there are 3 for poetry. There's 1 for history, 1 for tragedy, 1 for dance, 1 for hymns, 1 for comedy, and 1 for astronomy. I'll read that again because I want to ask this question. Why do you think they have 1 for astronomy? Because when we think of astronomy today in the 21st century, we think of science, the universe, planets, right? Well, they have 3 for poetry, 1 for history, 1 for tragedy, 1 for dance, 1 for hymns, 1 for comedy. These all seem like the arts. And then they have this 1 for astronomy. Why do you think they have astronomy in with all the other muses?
I once read a book by a guy named Stratford Colford, I think. Or I might get his name a bit wrong, but it was on the quadrivium, and he kind of broke down the quadrivium of what is it, arithmetic, geometry, astronomy, and I'm forgetting the last one. And music,
math.
Yeah. And he was talking about arithmetic is pure number, music is number and time, astronomy is number in space and in time. Yeah, and geometry, number and space. So astronomy would be seen. I guess maybe they've got a more cosmological view of like, it's a more connected view of like the stars in the heavens are also dancing as well. Maybe.
Yes, that's right. So I just wanted you to sort of get an idea of how the muses were portrayed in antiquity. And then also how even this beautiful painting we have over on the right, Polyhymnia, she is the muse of hymns. And it's kind of a more recent painting. But I just wanted to show you these because I want to hear from you, like, what do you sense or notice in these images? How is it portraying them? Like, what are some adjectives you could describe that portray what you notice about them?
The one on the right, she seems to be contemplating.
Harmonious.
Okay, how so, Helen?
I think their body, the way that they're leaning, standing, they seem as if they're harmonious with their body, the movement of their bodies.
I thought of refined. I thought they all look very refined, especially compared to the sirens, which, you know, they knew that they were going to have to perform in front of the gods, and it didn't look like they'd even brushed their hair. So, you know, these look much more refined. Yeah.
I would also like to add, Adrienne and team, studious and attentive. If you look at them, they're giving their attention to something. They're attentive. They're focused on something, whether it be or not. If you look at they've got something in their hands, and they're studious. And they're focused. They're focused on something in specific.
What about the lady up on the left?
On the left, she's holding 2 things.
On the top left.
She's got an instrument. Yeah, she's got an instrument, and she's looking back at something.
I wish I had a picture of the whole vase.
Looks like she's wearing pearls or something going
Mhm.
around her neck and in her hair, but those, I don't know if it's the same thing, but you can also see the little white dots growing out of something organic.
Mhm.
It's the right. I'm not sure what that is.
Mhm. Mhm.
Busy playing the instrument because her fingers are touching the instrument, but she is still distracted or looking away in a different direction. But she looks elegant and graceful and harmonious, just like the rest of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
She might be teaching someone too. She looks like she could be teaching somebody and showing them what this is how it's done.
Right. I'm going to move to the next one. So the opposite of the muses are the harpies and the sirens. So just to give you a quick definition of the difference, harpies have a head of a woman, and so do sirens. They both have bodies of birds. The difference is that harpies lured sailors in order to torture and eat them, and sirens lured them through music and enchanting, and they lured them onto an island in order to seduce them. So sirens are I would say maybe a little bit more competing directly with the muses, and more trying to seduce in trying to mimic the muses. And the reason I wanted to talk about this is because there's a part in the book, if you guys remember, we'll get to it later, but where he talks about the difference in beauty, and he talks about the differences between the muses and the sirens. And I think that this is important, especially with the culture we live in today, right now, what's up against our kids. And just, I don't know if Taylor Swift is big in Australia, but
Yeah, she's big at the moment.
yeah, I just watched her several of her music videos for the first time ever, like 2 weeks ago, and I was mortified. And I was like, oh, okay, she would be an example of a siren.
Mm.
So this is an example of what's kind of coming up with our kids today. Or even maybe she would be a harpy, because torturing and eating their souls, I mean, it's pretty bad. I was pretty mortified with the few videos that I did watch. And so this vase is this is a Greek vase, and this is Homer tied to the mast, from that section in the Odyssey, in the Odyssey. And it inspired one of my absolute favorite paintings in all the world, and you all have it in Australia. So this painting is by Waterhouse, and it is Ulysses and the Sirens at the National Gallery of Victoria in Melbourne, Australia. So anybody there who's lucky enough to go visit this museum, I am jealous, but take your students. I think this is an important piece to discuss. And I want to just give you a few minutes to look at it, and then let's talk about what you notice in this painting. Okay. What do you notice? I'm actually going to move away from the picture and stop screen sharing and we'll talk. What did you notice in that painting? Do you remember?
Yeah, what struck me, Adrienne, everyone, is that 5 of the sirens are looking at Odysseus, but one of them is not looking at Odysseus, is actually very close to one of the sailors. So that was very interesting. The person that did this painting, I found that very interesting. Yeah.
I noticed that as well, Con, and I felt like there was a contrast between Odysseus. He just seemed really resolute and strong, and then you see the other figure, kind of, he seemed to be listening to the siren, and the siren seemed to almost be approaching him in a very, I don't know, gentle kind of seductive way, like not fiercely.
Yes.
I noticed the ship was going towards what seemed like a narrow pass, or maybe something that could potentially be treacherous, that they needed to keep their wits about them, I guess. And I also noticed the sailors had their heads wrapped, but Odysseus did not have his head wrapped.
Yes. Does anybody know why? Anybody know why their heads were wrapped?
Block out
Not
the
really sure
sound,
why, but I thought
the
it was just
dark
because.
sound.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry. I said, is it because of the sounds? Because it kind of puts them in a trance or a. If I remember
Yes.
correctly.
Right, because
Yeah.
the sirens will sing. Remember when I was telling you, they'll
That's
sing and it will put them in a trance. So they actually had wax in their ears in the story when you read the story.
Yeah, I read this story with my son, like the abridged version actually, and I found that part to be quite interesting because they know that the sirens are dangerous for them, but somehow Odysseus was actually quite curious. Okay, well, how beautiful is the singing? I want to hear it, but I know there's danger around it. So yeah, you tie me around the post or around the mouse. So all of you cannot listen to this. You just kind of, that's a bit selfish, I thought. but yeah, it's just there is this like tension between, oh yeah, I want to hear something beautiful but dangerous, and I need to have some precaution around it. So something like that. It's just a bit.
It's like a seduction, and they can't withstand it. One of the sailors has got his hand over his ears as well, even with the headgear. And I noticed that the sirens are larger figures than anything else and dark. And one of them has actually crouched down to try and seduce the sailors.
I'm going to show you something else that's interesting to me. So when I worked at the University of Dallas, we showed this picture a lot at trainings, and I never noticed until about the 6th training. And I have studied this picture, but I never noticed there is somebody, the head of the ship, in a blue dress behind the wings on the left. Do you see this? So over here, I don't know if you can see my arrow. There's somebody over here, and it looks to me like he's looking at her, trying to keep his eyes off of the ones that are staring at him and trying to get his attention. And so when we were at UD, we kind of wondered, and we don't really know, but we wondered, one of our theories was, could this be Mary because her head is covered and she's in a blue dress? And interesting that Waterhouse put that figure there. But none of us could really figure out exactly who she was, or even if it's a guy, who he is. But I kind of don't think it's a guy, because none of them even have, we all thought it was probably a woman, but I don't know, maybe it's a man. And if anybody ever knows who it is, I have Googled and tried to find, I have read all kinds of commentaries on this painting, and I've never seen it mentioned anywhere. So it's still a mystery to me. But one of the, in the last screen, I'm just going to send these to you, but the last screen is resources that we can talk about later. So I don't need to talk about this right now. But I do want to ask you, do you think that all of the art I just showed you was beautiful?
Yes.
Okay, tell me
Yeah.
why. Based on reading the book we just read, that we've been reading, Awakening Wonder, we probably have a little better understanding of how to define beauty, and we're going to walk through how to define beauty. What did you see in that in all of those paintings that would make you think beauty?
It was unified
Craftsmanship.
and integrated. And I think I always use the word harmony. When something's beautiful for me, it makes me feel harmonious. So there's unity and there's harmony and there's integration.
I feel
What
like
else?
it's also trying to direct us towards virtue, like towards what is good. Like in terms of, you know, the parallel between the muses and the sirens. Even in the last painting with Odysseus, you know, trying to withstand that which is perceived not to be good.
I'm trying to think about in my mind what's the difference between something that's just true and good. Like what are these paintings doing that maybe a piece of propaganda that might be true, it might be leading towards some sort of goodness, like just a post that says, do not listen to sirens, do not listen to harpies or something like that. How is it different to put it in something that, like I think Helen was saying, that's unified, or I don't know what I'm trying to think about. What is it that I look at a painting and I think that's right or that's true, or yeah.
There's an order. There's a certain order that we're all trying to work out. And, you know, as you helped us, you know, work out what is that order, because the artist has an order that is almost mysterious, and we're trying to work it out.
Yeah, I think I'd say something similar to Helen. One element of beauty is part of it you can understand the art, but there's also an element you can't understand, and it sort of draws you into a mystery, draws you into something you can't fully comprehend. So yeah, part of it you do understand, part of it you don't.
Yeah, I think what John and Connor have said is getting at it in regards to, even if we just have propaganda or an advert that literally just tells us or has words and no imagery much, it sort of reflects what the advertisers or the people giving the propaganda think of the human person. Rather than if you have beauty and mystery and art and figures and you've got to contemplate it and think about it, then that in itself is revealing what the artist or whoever's behind the work is. They respect something about humanity that we can actually contemplate and think and delve into the mystery. And yeah, it's not simply just, you're a robot, you have to think this is what you have to do. Rah, rah, rah.
Yeah, exactly. That I think that answers it to me as well, is that kind of art that we've looked at, you know, it inspires meditation, and meditation is not going to be useful to someone trying to sell something or trying to, you know, drum up support for the state party or whatever it happens to be.
Yeah. I echo, and before you, I just want to say, you mentioned that word, Andrew, contemplation, and that's what beauty is. If there's one word to describe beauty, it's contemplation. You look at it, and it gets you deep into thought and connection, back to what Helen was saying, you know, and thinking. It's not, you're with it for a long, long time, and that's what classical education. We want our students to go deep, and to look and to search and to ask, not to dismiss quickly. And those images that Adrienne definitely do that. They make us contemplate.
I think it also draws you in automatically without you wanting to do it. You automatically get drawn in. And I think that's something that's intuitive in a way. when you look at it, because you're trying to work out what is happening here. And the more you look and the more you contemplate and concentrate and focus, it takes you in deeper and deeper.
Right. Yeah. So
can
what I
really
get you guys to share with me key words, and you did it perfectly. What is beauty? It is unified, it's integrated, it draws us to, I love one of you said it directs towards virtue or good. It's ordered. It is an element of mystery that draws us into more mystery to goodness. And Denise, I didn't mean to interrupt you. What else were you going to say?
Sorry, no.
Okay.
keep talking when someone else is talking. Sorry. I was just gonna say it's really beautiful to me because you can see that the person who has made those paintings have mastered their craft, and that's what draws in the beauty of it to me.
The person who painted it has what?
They have mastered their craft, so it's very skillfully done. It's not something that's just been put together. It's not like our modern art today that's just paint thrown on a picture. There's skill involved, and that skill has been mastered, and that is what we can appreciate. That's what makes it so beautiful.
Right, right. Because in beauty does have that intentional harmony, that intentional skill, the intentional order and unity in it. That's right. That's right. So I was hoping that experience would help you to, I wanted you to experience what the author was telling us in the book about beauty. So that's why I wanted to do that lesson, so you could experience exactly what he was telling us in the book about beauty. Everything he said about beauty, you guys all just pulled that out in that lesson. And so the reason that's why this book is important is it's so important for us to understand the role of beauty and what it does, in order for us to understand why we need to make sure that the things we're choosing to give our students to contemplate and learn is actually beautiful. It's not thrown together. Or do you remember when we did the lesson with Kiernan and we were showing you the curriculum and the chaos all around it versus just reading the poem and looking at a piece of art? No chaos around. And so that it allows the student to enter in and contemplate without all of these little sticky notes that were all over the textbook pointing to the different elements of the poetic, alliteration and like, and then there were doodles all around it. Like and it was a textbook that you guys use. But the
English textbook, yes.
And like when you have a textbook that has this beautiful poem that's just surrounded by sticky notes and doodles in the textbook, don't give them that. Just take the poem, type it up, put it on a piece of paper, give it to them in the plain and simple form that is unified. It is harmonious because it doesn't have junk all around it, and it sets them up in that it postures them to contemplate. So the opposite of beauty would be chaos, right? And so that's what unfortunately a lot of you guys are dealing with your curriculum textbooks. So if you can extract the beautiful part in the textbook from the chaotic stuff around it, give them that, right? And I think that was kind of what Kiernan and I were trying to help you guys with when we did the curriculum one. And you have a video of that, Con, so feel free to share it with any of these people so that if they want to see that presentation, they can. I think, Andrew, I don't think you were at that presentation, so you might want to see that. Okay, so let's dive into the book. And there's so many different questions I could ask, but I've tried to narrow it down to a few. So I want to start off with sort of right on the front of the book, pages 2 and 4. I want you guys to sort of start talking about and explaining in your own words, based on the book, what is cosmic piety? Cosmic piety. He kind of talks about it a lot on page 2 and 4. Or 2, 3, and 4. 2 through 4.
Yeah, I think it comes back, Adrienne, to what Helen said before. It's about harmony, order, not disarray, not chaos. So the ancient Greeks obviously looked at the world, looked at the universe, and they saw that there is an order, there is a harmony to what the way it is. Yeah, that's my understanding of. Cosmos means world. So cosmic piety means have a religious fervor. So cosmic piety means that there's a reason why the world is the way it is. There is a reason. It's meant to be beautiful. It's meant to have order. That's my understanding.
I thought as well, I liked how Stephen paired it with the ideas that are contained in the Abolition of Man and the ones in the Green Book. So it seems like that's a real like strike against cosmic piety, is that kind of subjective entailment, where I think they're talking about when Coleridge sees the waterfall, and the author tries to say he said it was sublime because he was feeling sublime feelings, rather than, you know, there's something real about the cosmos and we're part of it as well, and it falls across both subjective and objective, and or inner and outer worlds as well.
I also think that there is this micro macro thing that is being quite emphasized quite clearly in the beginning, and I think sort of like seeing man as a reflection of the cosmos, or the miniature of the cosmos, and therefore for man to be man, or mankind, or human, sorry, is to reflect what the cosmos is showing as well. So something like order, for example. So in a way, I'm like, there is this connection between human and the cosmos. So a human cannot just oh yeah, I'm on my own. I can do anything. I'm on. So yeah, so it's quite interesting. I mean, like that the Greek can have that kind of thinking without God, in a way. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's what I was really struck with this. Wow. Okay. So so Plato has this kind of Christian thinking. It's just that he didn't put God or Jesus in the picture. So, but there's this that man is actually looking up to something.
Why, and why do you think that is?
Sorry, what that one?
Why do you
sorry?
think that the Greeks were able to do that? Why were they able to sort of recognize this cosmic world with us being a reflection of that? Why do you think they were able to recognize that, apart from Christ hadn't even come and they weren't Jewish? So like apart from that, why were they able to recognize that? I'm curious what your thoughts are.
Well, they seem to have this like deeper appreciations of what, I mean, they keep thinking about this truth, this good, this beauty, and I suppose that they see that well, there's I'm sort of like mixing up from something that I learned from somewhere else as well, but the importance of myth in someone's worldview, because in Greek mythology they also have gods that sort of like create man, so something like that. I mean, it's a very different story to the Christian story, but they have this sort of like divine or transcendent part of the cosmos, I suppose, that and then and I think the Greek realized that, hey, we what we see is not everything, in a way. Like they have we have something higher than us. So I think they do have the understanding, they do have the appreciation, and which is probably why they have this cosmic piety concept. But that's just my opinion, obviously.
Okay. Andrew,
Yeah, well,
you want to say? Go ahead.
Well, I need to remember my philosophy, but basically Plato believed in this world of the ideal forms or something. So the point is that even though they didn't believe in the Trinity or anything like that, they still believed that there was objective value somewhere in the universe from which all things that we experience are reflecting in some way. And so they had an ideal objective forms that they were aiming towards or imitating in some way. And so that was reflected in the book. And then as a result, they, talked about paideia and talked about the virtues, et cetera, et cetera. And so they didn't have a concept of God like we do, but they did have an ideal that there are objective values or objective forms somewhere in the universe for which all things, all creation, or they might not have used that word, but all of the world is reflecting in some way. And so they were aiming towards the ideal and imitating that in some way. And so that gave them to form the perfect citizen who would be a good citizen of the polis. And that was obviously discussed in the book. So all of that.
Okay, does anybody want to add to that? I see
I think
the wheels are spinning, Helen.
Yeah, I've just been reading it, trying to simplify the divine obligation that humans had, that everyone knew that intuitively that they had a divine obligation to the gods, and they acted that out. And I think that's something that we don't have, or that's been taken away, that obligation that we have to be morally in a particular way.
Yeah, because their philosophers were so amazing, they had this sort of they reached almost the height of natural revelation that you can get without divine revelation from the scriptures or from God, the ancient Greeks in particular. So yeah.
I'm also wondering. Oh, sorry, Connor.
that's all right. You go, Eleni.
Yeah, I was just thinking, like, if we're all made in God's image, then we kind of have that natural inclination to move towards him and towards good. And so they would have had that also. They may not have been aware of it like we are. So maybe that was also their own personal journey, or I like the word epektas, that movement towards the good and the beautiful, in addition to what they also believed, I guess, as a society and all of that. Yeah.
Yeah, they were striving for the truth. They were striving to seek what is out there, what is objective truth, what is real, what's the nature of things.
I was gonna say, I think I don't, especially I always tend to think about what's the difference between and I've seen it said in other books, and I'm not sure how historically accurate it is, but like the difference in attitudes between Athenians and the Spartans. And the Sparta had a much more military regimented society governed by oligarchy, and I know the Athenians had something in them, but then there was also something for them to reach for as well. So it wasn't just that they weren't just inventing things, they were reaching out for something as well, which didn't come to the Spartans, who probably had a kind of similar in terms of geography and culture and language, but just didn't have the same sensibilities as the Athens and other communities around as well.
All right. Another question I have is, the author lays the historical view of the transcendentals, which is truth, goodness, and beauty. So he lays this historical view of them according to Plato. Discuss this historical anthropology. So pretty much it would be most of chapter 2 that we're looking at.
Yeah, I suppose, if you're looking at chapter 2, which is a Greek guess, the word that struck me there, everyone, is the word logos. It's a logocentric world. And that's a very important word in the classical renewal. And Stephen Turley definitely looks at the word logos, which
What
again
page are you on, Con?
What's that, sorry?
What page are you on?
Page 21, yeah. Are you talking about chapter 2? Yeah, so he obviously he says Christ-centered cosmology, obviously, but yeah, sorry, so my apologies, page 22, everyone, page 22, yeah, so he talks about...
Okay, that's chapter 3, but that's okay.
Sorry, my apologies. Sorry, let's go back, yeah, sorry.
It's okay. Yeah, well, let's come back to that. So chapter 2 is where he's really laying the foundation, kind of building upon that idea of cosmic piety
Mm.
and building into this historical anthropology of from Plato of what the transcendentals are. Okay. So how is he kind of laying this out? What stood out to you through Plato's theory here? I mean, I guess we could talk about like his Socratic Trinity on page 13, but anything that stands out to you in this area that's just really laying down this really important history of the transcendentals.
Yes, if I could just speak very quickly, the word kalokagathos or kalogagathia on page 12, yeah. That was a very important term in ancient Greece. Kalos, beauty, agathos, good, morally good. So kalogagathos. And those words are combined, Adrienne and everyone else. Those words are combined. So those two words become one word. That says a lot to me. It's not kalos and it's kalokagathos. So in other words, the human being has to intertwine, has to combine those in their person that can do that. And it is possible. It is possible. So that really struck me that those words have merged into one word, kalokagathos.
And that's goodness and beauty together.
Correct. Yes.
Okay, what else stood out to you guys?
I was wondering in the Socratic Trinity between logos, ethos, and eros, whether Socrates through Plato or just Plato himself, whether there is any sort of hierarchy afforded to that in the same way that, like in the Christian tradition, you have spiritual goods and bodily goods and external goods, and that's in Aristotle as well. And then, like pretty much through the Bible, you get a consistent privileging of the spiritual good over bodily and external goods. Trying to think of an example, like when Christ says, "Don't worry about the food you're going to eat, and don't worry about the clothes on your back, but seek the kingdom first." I wonder if for Socrates, he also afforded one of these a priority. I'm trying to think about whether Turley has said anything about that, or if anyone else knows. Maybe.
I'm not sure exactly what you're asking. Can you rephrase that a little bit?
Yeah, I'll rephrase it. Sure. Could be okay. The Socratic Trinity and the tripart soul is made up of logos, which is our rational capacity. Ethos is our emotional, ethical, and then eros involves our desires or aesthetic capacities. Are these considered just equal three parts, or should one of these rule the other two?
Oh, okay. I'm gonna let you guys answer. I think I have an answer, but I'm gonna let you guys tell me.
The answer, Connor, is in. The answer is in Plato's Republic. So I'll be brief then. The answer to your question, Connor, is in Plato's Republic, where it talks about the charioteer with the 3 horses. So you have to make sure that that our logos is monitoring the epithemia, the desire, because we can't let eros epithemia take over us.
Yeah,
that's
that's what I was thinking would probably be. I just wanted to double check because I know Plato's all about the philosopher king and everything like that. So that's good.
I interrupted
it matches up nicely.
Sorry, Denise. Yeah.
No, all good. My thinking is very simple compared to your philosophical thinking, but here goes. So to me, what I'm thinking is the one leads to the other. So beauty is that which is lovely, and in seeing that which is lovely, you can identify the goodness, or it leads to goodness, and that goodness is that which fulfills its purpose, right? And once you see the goodness, it will lead you to the truth, that which defines reality. So that it's all joined, and I think we can see it in that's also part of the cosmic piety, because it leads to God's truth in his word as well. even when, you know, you've read a piece of scripture, when you read it again during a different time, God reveals different truths to you.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that kind of is evident there.
Good.
Can I add something?
Yep. Mhm.
Yeah. On page 15 of the book, just below the quote from Republic, I think it says, for Plato, the good is not simply a thing or a value. The good is universal priority in which all true things participate and from which they exist. So it seems to me, even though I agree with you, Dennis, that they're all connected, but it seems to me, according to Plato, good is the overarching one, or something like what truth and beauty are pointing toward, it seems to be.
Does
Yeah,
anybody
and
have?
sort of,
Yep.
yeah,
Keep going.
sorry, yeah, in
Go ahead.
the middle of that paragraph, it also says, as such, the good, the divine source of life. So you see that the divine source. So good is a source. The good, the divine source of life, is in itself unknowable, being the essence, the light by which all things are known and perceived.
Mhm.
The good itself must thus be revealed, and the revelation is the role of the truth.
Amazing.
And the attraction toward truth is the role of beauty.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well
I'm thinking
said.
now, I'm thinking now that based on what you guys were saying as well, that like what would you get if you separated from beauty from truth and goodness? And maybe, Adrienne, maybe that's why you were showing us the harpies and the sirens. Maybe that's what you get. You get sirens who are taking advantage of beauty or beautiful powers, but are divorcing it from goodness and truth. Yeah.
That was on one of the pages of our book. I don't know where. Does anybody know where it is? I will find it. It's a part where he talks about beauty. Here it is, page 17. In order for something to be truly beautiful, it must by definition draw one to the true and the good. So what does that sentence tell us about the role of beauty? The picture study made us realize this because y'all said it.
That goes right back to what the is it chapter 1 or the introduction opens with that quote from Dostoevsky or Solzhenitsyn or whoever it was, basically saying that even if we've lost in our modern society truth and goodness, beauty can draw us up into the divine or into the truth. So yeah, and play the role.
So if beauty draws us to the true and the good, he then says that's what it's supposed to do, right? The role of beauty is to draw us to the true and the good. But what he goes on to say is the Greeks alluded to this differentiation in the mythologies of the Muses and the Sirens. The Muses are the daughters of Zeus who inspire beauty and truth, while the Sirens are the water nymphs who lure sailors to the depths through their bewitching songs. So we see here a highly ethical significance to this encounter with the true, the good, and the beautiful, because beauty communicates the true and the good through its radiance, the awakening of Eros, always involving the awakening of arete, the classical virtues, which occurs when the logos, thymos, and the I don't know Greek, epithematis, anybody want to correct me?
That's good.
Constituting the tripartite human soul, reflecting the balance of harmony of the cosmos. And I looked up these words, thymos, I guess, means breath. And you can correct me, maybe you know better than I do, Con. And then epithetamus is desire.
Yes,
And
yes.
so
Keep
keep
going,
going.
yeah.
You go ahead.
No, no, you're right. Yeah, themos. I mean, help me, Helen. Thimono is to be upset, agitated. Correct, Eleni? The two Helens. Yeah, themos. You know, themos we're saying, but it's themos. You know, but it's not anger. It's a different. It's not anger. You're right. You're right, Adrienne. Themos is not anger. It's just, I don't know if the word is indignation. You're just not happy about something. You know, something can be improved. I hope I haven't lost anyone, but because that's, if you look at the etymology of the word themos, yeah, it's different from epithemia, which is desire. You know, you want something, you desire. Yes, so there's a difference between themos and epithemia. Correct, Adrienne? Correct.
So the beauty can work. So the muses are showing us what true beauty is, and the sirens are luring us away. They're basically giving us the pornographic, evil side of beauty, which isn't, I don't want to say it's an evil side of beauty. That's not a good way to put it, but
it's like frustrated. It's like frustrated. It's always frustrated, which I love that later Stephen goes on to talk about Gregory of Nyssa and talks about like the ever searching, but the ever sort of satisfied in a way, whereas things that are divorced are always going to frustrate. And that's true to life. Definitely.
And Connor, is that the part where he talks about we're going to be drawn? That might be when he's talking about goodness with Gregory of Nyssa, that we're going to be drawn no matter what, we're going to be drawn. So whether we're drawn towards good or we're drawn towards evil, we're going to be drawn because we're not going to be stagnant.
Yeah.
And so then beauty, the wrong beauty, beauty distorted, let's put it that way.
Disordered,
distorted beauty can draw us the other way. I don't even know how we started talking about this. Okay, what other things did you highlight in chapter 2 that you want to talk about? There was lots of Greek terms in this chapter too, so if you want to bring any of those into this, we can keep talking. I might need Ken's help though, or Con's help, because I don't know Greek.
I think
it was only
from. Yeah, sorry. Oh yeah, so what I really love about this chapter is how it highlights the role of beauty and how significant beauty is. I think it's something that is amiss in education these days. So I was actually, so I just got my teacher reg finally last July, and I can start teaching. So I'm doing some relief teaching now, and I was doing some science class, and this is like it's year 7 or year 8 class, I forgot. Yeah, I think year 8 class, and they were talking about rocks, and just to sort of like to ignite their excitement for rocks, I brought my son's rock collections and all these beautiful rocks and stones. And I'm quite surprised. What happened was I told them, okay, look at these rocks, and then once you have a look at them, just pass it on. And I just sense that they lost their fascinations of when they look at these things, because when I look at this, I mean, I got really excited. Wow, I mean, I never thought that rocks could look like this, you know, like. But what happened is that they just look at it briefly and then just pass it on. I mean, like, it seems that I don't know. I mean, we couldn't really appreciate beauty anymore, or something like that. And then looking at this chapter, how important beauty is to direct their gaze to the truth and the good. It's quite scary to see that, actually.
Yeah, related to that was the point I was going to mention. It's sort of almost as if it's an aside, and he doesn't dwell on it much, the author. But I was very interested when he talked about temples as architectural models of the cosmos. And that gets back to what we were talking about, where well, even I'm into the Bible and being a Bible teacher and that sort of stuff, but that's exactly what happens in the Bible with the Jewish tabernacle and the temple. It's copied, or supposed to be a copy of heaven itself. Like it's got the cherubim over the ark, and I could go into it, but the point is, it reveals not only the heavens, but other parts. The outer courts reveal other aspects of creation, the world in which we live. And as you go in, you get closer to the heavens of heavens. So the point is that the Greeks had this amazing insight, and they copied their temple on what they believed the ideal form was. And so that in itself provides them with something to emulate, something to, so, you know, that, so they're sort of orientated towards the virtue, towards the good. They've got this ideal form that there is somewhere, even though they may not have the true revelation of it, which we get in scripture and divine revelation. So that was just an aside which the author talks about, and I thought, yeah, that's a good example of how they were orientated towards the good and the true and the beautiful, because they literally saw it, they had it, like with their columns and their beautiful architecture and everything. So yeah, amazing.
Great. That was at the bottom of page 10.
Thanks.
Yeah, so I was struck by that too, and I looked some things up on the internet, and yeah, and the thing is, they had this architecture was everywhere, so they were always reminded of it.
Yeah,
it wasn't just something they would go to on Sunday. It was always there, and it was a daily part of their daily life. Right, so beautiful. And I know, like, my favorite statues in Greece are I have them on my website, and I should know what they're called. The women pillars that are women, and they actually built that on the front to hide some ugly columns in the back, and they're just stunning. I you know, and unfortunately, I feel embarrassed that I can't remember the name of them. Caryatids.
Yes.
So let me find them, because I think we should look at, because I think yeah, here it is. Thank you.
I always found it interesting how intentional the buildings of even just things you like. Of course, it's with churches as well, that they face the east, and Greek temples as well. The proportions of things as well, but it isn't like a cold mathematical. I remember we studied for one of the classes I taught, we looked at Greek temples and church architecture as well, and they tilted certain parts of the temple to account for some weird little things with human perspective, so that they would appear more, columns would appear more straight. I'm trying to remember exactly what they would be tilted slightly downward, so they would appear to be vertical when viewed from below. Yeah, so they would end it.
I'm gonna share the screen on this. Do you see them?
Yes.
Yeah, and they built that in order to hide architectural support, and it was to hide some ugly functional wall. Anyhow, I just think look at this, the intricacy. They really cared about form and beauty, and everybody saw this all the time because it mattered. They wanted to make sure, I mean, Plato was pretty obsessed with, in the Republic, making sure that what the children see and hear is absolutely the best all the time. Because we don't want their minds to be polluted with anything other than what's beautiful, in order to draw them to the good and the true and direct. So
well said, Adrienne.
And you know that one of them is in London. They're trying to get it back.
Oh, really?
One of the Caryatids, of course. Yeah.
Wow, they're just so beautiful. So I'm really excited. I'm like, I'm dying to get to where we can talk about, like, let's have some adjectives to describe the role of beauty and goodness and truth, because I'm ready to go there. But I feel like we've got beauty down. I've written a lot of words down that y'all have said of the role of beauty, and we're going to put that in a chart. And I want to jump over into goodness pretty soon here. Where do we?
Adrienne, I've just been thinking about. I've gone back to thymos,
Mhm.
and I've been thinking of one or two words that we can have, because I don't think we had logos, themos, and epithemia. Epithemia was the desire. The themos automatically translates as anger, but it's actually volition. It's the volition or the motivation. So it can be anger, but it can also be calmness. So I think it's really important to understand as part of the tripartite soul. So you have the desire, epithemia, themos, the volition or the motivation, and then you've got the logos. Yeah, because I know automatically in Greek, when we think of themos, we think of anger, but I think that needs, I just wanted to clarify that I think it's more of a volition or a motivation within us.
I think you might be right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I had looked this all up and then I forgot to write it down. But yeah, I think
I'm just having a look at the definition here, the ancient word, and it was what you said before, breath, soul, life. So I guess that goes with what Helen's saying. It's that movement in your life, in your soul, movement one way or the other.
That comes out, the ruah, or the Jewish would say the ruah, the breath.
Very interesting. Very.
Okay, well, what? Okay. I don't think I like that question because we're kind of already having an organic conversation relating to this. We do need to jump over to chapter 3. What else in chapter 2 before we go to 3 do we see to help us understand?
Please, Adrienne and friends, I have to say this, chapter 2, page 14, the word anamnesis, which means a recovery of truth. So that word really struck to me, team.
I like that, yeah.
A recovery of truth. In other words, Plato's saying that we have, it's part of us, but we don't even know. We don't even know that we have the truth within us. And part of the idea is to recover it. And, and that relates a lot to what classical renewal is all about. We have to recover the truth. So I love that word anamnesis, a Greek word again. Anamnesis, as we say.
Am I right in thinking that that's the same word? It might be slightly different or maybe related or maybe the same word, but the word that's used in the Gospels when Christ is talking about the Last Supper and he says, let this be a memorial for me. Is that the same Koine Greek or Greek or
Greek?
Yeah, anamnesis. Because I think when I did when I was learning about the church and because I'm a convert, I think I had a lot of conversations about this. And for Orthodox and for Catholic churches, of course, it's linked to the Eucharist as well. It's not just a like a recollection of like, oh, I remember when Christ had the Last Supper. It's more like, no, it's like something's really being brought and made present.
Yes.
Yeah.
Recovery, yeah.
We see. So we're seeing memory in that word for sure.
Definitely.
And maybe it's related to amnesia. I don't know.
Amnesis.
Yeah. Amnesia. Yes, Connor. Well said, Connor.
I really like that. So is that the Greek word that's used in that verse? Do this in remembrance of me?
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah,
it is.
I think it's used in the liturgy as well.
1 Corinthians 11, it's used, I think.
Wait, so how cool is it that Plato tied that to truth and the logo? That is really cool. It's so amazing. That's really neat. One more thing for me to circle in my book, Con. I mean, I have enough things circled in here. You gave me another one. I love it. All right, what else do we want to talk about here in this chapter?
I found something that fascinated me was towards the end of the chapter on page 18. Just where he talks about the Bedia and the three stages of humility, purification, and theoria, which reminds me of the Christian illumination, purification, and unity. And I just found it fascinating. I guess we kind of touched on it before, and how a lot of what he said is kind of a shadow of what was to come.
Yeah.
Foretaste, that Eleni, like a foretaste.
Yeah.
Foreshadowing.
That's good. I didn't even notice that.
Also on page 18, it says moral purification involves the practice of the virtues. And I really liked that, because you practice the virtues. It's not something that just comes to you. That means you need to be mindful and purposeful. And I wrote here, as a teacher and a mom, we have to teach virtue. It's not something we can just assume comes naturally to everybody.
Great point, Denise. Great point. Yeah.
So true. I think he said by embodying the truth, goodness, and beauty through pedia, the students are cultivated into virtue. And I think that's really important.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, and is that where he talks about like purification also, the gymnastics and music and poetry? Beautiful.
Yeah, it's an intentional, when you read this, you can see the intention that goes into it in making sure that, the pedia shows exactly what they need to do. And I think we need to be aware of that as well, that it can't just be, students aren't going to cultivate virtue just by
magically.
us. That it's
Like
intentional.
Helen saying nice stories, for example. Helen just saying nice stories. Yeah, we got to do more. Is that what you're saying? Yeah. Because we're all good at saying good stories. Yeah.
What we're embodying is really important. We have to understand how that actually takes place.
It's not just
we
through
use the word
entertainment.
embodying. We need to understand how embodying takes place, I think. Mimetic teaching, and I think it's all understanding. And there's so many. We could spend a whole month on this.
And it goes back to, and we have to show the virtues. If the kids don't see the virtues in us, the teacher, well, we've lost them. They have to see it embodied in us, the educator. If I'm not going to be a virtues teacher, well, I've lost them. Might as well just go home. Sorry. They have to see it embodied in the teacher up there every morning when they see that teacher. We have to be true, good, and beauty to those students. And they will see that because they've got souls and they will collect. Yes.
I've been trying to do a bit of that in my own class, where I've got a year 7 English class, and we're doing a Christmas carol, and I've decided to take a bit of a virtue ethics look at it. And then I started getting the feeling that I was doing it the wrong way, because I was giving them case studies of like little scenarios and thinking about like Scrooge was prideful, Scrooge was envious, what about this person? Then I started thinking, I'm not teaching them to be better people, I'm just teaching them how to judge others. So I kind of shifted track, and I started to talk about my own life and when I'd been envious, and if I'd failed to address it, or if I succeeded and what happened or whatever, and then I invited them to do the same in their own, to reflect on their own lives. And that's been, now it's been more interesting and better. So
Connor, that's so beautiful. And we have to identify and point out the different virtues to the children when we see it. So if someone is being courteous or chivalrous, it's so important to point that out. These are words and vocabulary that kids today are just not familiar with. And I think it's so beautiful that you used a personal example to teach the children, because those are the strongest examples, the ones that, that's personal. That's really beautiful.
I read something interesting in a book by Joshua Gibbs, and he said that a lot of students sort of just assume you become virtuous as you become an adult. And so I want to sort of dispel that that illusion.
All right, let's look at chapter 3. What's going on in this chapter? And I actually, to tie chapter 3 and 4 together, I am going to just ask one really huge question, because I think that this question will take us through chapter 3 and 4. And I know we don't have a lot of time left, but in triadic form, the incarnation of Christ is the manifestation of truth, goodness, and beauty. The incarnation of Christ is the manifestation of truth, goodness, and beauty. What passages in chapter 3 and 4 support that? Because that's pretty much what all of chapter 3 and 4 says. But I want to hear passages that stand out to you that support that the incarnation of Christ is manifested through these transcendentals. Because now we're shifting from Plato to Christ.
Yeah, if I can go first, Adrienne, your bottom of page 24 and top of 25, it says, bottom of page 24, the incarnation is so important to the realization of our true humanity. When we were first created in paradise, we were created to discern and delight in creation as a reflection of the Logos, through whom all things were made, and hence we were able to understand ourselves as creatures created in that image. So I suppose to answer your question is, yes, so Christ is a Logos. We are made in the image of Christ, so we also have to bear that image as well. Through the way we relate to others as well. We are like small Christs. Like we are also. I mean, we call ourselves Christians. We are small Christs in this world. So yeah, but I don't know if I've answered you because you asked a different question and you said where is but maybe I haven't answered your question. But because you're right, Christ is the true good and beauty. Yes. He is a true good and the beautiful. I'll keep looking, Adrienne.
Keep going.
And
if you can't find all three, just find one of the three. So where do you see the incarnation of Christ in truth? Where do you see the incarnation of Christ in beauty? Where do you see the incarnation of Christ in goodness? What passages can you find that support that?
I think I'm trying to answer your first question. In fact, page 49 is in I think having the summary page is quite helpful. Page 49, sort of like somewhere in the bottom of that paragraph, it says, in short, the Christian vision of truth, goodness, and beauty is an invitation, a divine call to awaken the fullness of our humanity as the entire cosmos is incorporated into transformative life, death, and resurrection of Christ. And there's a quote from John 10:10, I have come that they may have life and have it to the full. Well,
yes.
at least there's one. Thank you.
Yeah, I would say that passage that you shared, thank you, Ian. I think that passage of John 10:10 is a summation of all three: truth, goodness, and beauty. And when you say full, that's full truth, full goodness, full beauty. We have to, we were created to be full, not partial, but back to what Andrew said, not to be corrupted or disordered, but to be fullness. I love that word, the fullness. Christ is the fullness. So thank you for that, Ian. Yeah, that's a very good quote.
I wanted to do this little exercise. I'm going to try to do it with you guys. I have to figure out how to turn whiteboard on. Let me see if I can. Whiteboard. Oh, do I have to sign in? No. Collaborate. Yes. Presenting. Okay, let's just do it like that and see if it works. Okay, can you guys see this?
Yes, we can. Yes.
Okay, so let me see if I can make this work. Okay. So we've got beauty. Just gonna do it all. Some keywords that describe the role of beauty that we have talked about are unity, order. These are things that beauty does for us. Directs us towards the good. Requires meditation. Integrate. I'm pulling words that y'all told me earlier when we were and then on the part in the back towards the end of chapter 4 when it talks about Aquinas and beauty, do you guys see any key words in there that I could add to this? Let me see, it's on page 45, 46.
Yes. 45, 46, yeah.
Especially page 46. What do you see here that I should add to this chart on beauty?
Yeah. Proportion, integrity, and clarity. I think, yeah, those are very important. Proportion, integrity, and clarity.
Okay.
The second person of the Trinity, who Aquinas saw as beauty par excellence.
Says
What
it's
else?
an extension of the good. And also, I think I can't find it, but I thought I read somewhere that he said it was also an interconnection of things.
That's integrating.
Sorry,
Integrate.
yeah, integrated.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, it's okay, cool.
I remember seeing the word like for movement, moving forward, momentum somewhere in this book for beauty. And how about the word kalos? What does that mean?
Yes.
It
The
means,
core.
yeah, cool.
So these are the things that beauty does.
Could Perry Horaces be part of this in the movement?
Where was
Perry
that?
Horaces is it's not in there, but it just came up in my head now that you've said the movement.
How
And
do
I
you
think
spell it?
the Trinity is often described
Okay.
as Perry Horaces.
I'll
There's this
spell it.
dynamic. Sorry.
I'll
There's
spell
a
it for you.
dynamic. There's a dynamic harmony in the Holy Trinity, and the perihotetic.
Chat. It's in the chat.
I just think it's a word that we could use. Perihoresis.
I don't know if I
Andrew?
can. Okay, chat. There it is. Thank you. I just don't know that word, so.
Oh, that's okay. Maybe perihoresis.
Yeah.
Can you describe that word again to me? Because I'm not familiar.
Visually, it's about, they call it the perihoretic dance. So the Holy Trinity is it's
Divine
combined,
movement.
it's unified, it's all the words that we're talking about combined. There's unity,
fellowship.
there's integration, there's harmony, there's proportion, and often it's called as it's the dance of the Holy Trinity.
I love that.
And I think it's a good word, perichoresis.
Yeah,
I used to use that
Very
when I
good.
was teaching.
Okay, so we've got a really good, I think a really great chart here showing us the role of beauty. Can we, and do we have time, or do we want to do this, like carry on if we meet in November and continue talking about chapter 3? We can go back to chapter 3 and 4, and we could talk and create our chart for goodness and truth. Do you guys want to keep, it's like 6:30. I'm willing to keep going, but I want to respect your time. We could keep going now, or I can save this. And in November, we can come back to this and keep building. I really want to keep building this because I think that it really matters a lot to how you're going to apply things in the classroom. So I am all about practical application. That's what I do. And so on my chart here, my big thing, I have written out how beauty is applied in the classroom, how goodness is applied in the classroom, and how truth is applied in the classroom. And I want to get into that, but I don't want to get into that until we have a good working chart of what the roles of each are. Does that make sense? And I don't want to
Yes.
just tell you what they are, because I want us to have a conversation about what they are. And if you unpack these chapters, I created my own little chart, and I created all these key words that I was finding in every chapter to describe the role of each. And I feel like it's important enough for us to continue going in this direction. But Con, can you give guidance on what we need to do next steps?
Yes, no, thank you. No, I like your suggestion that, God willing, in November, yes, I think we should go away, think about this, reread these chapters. I like your suggestion, Adrienne, and yeah, I think there's a lot. Yeah, we've covered a lot today, actually, and yeah, I think maybe we can end it there for today, if that's okay, Adrienne, with yourself and others. They're my
I love
thoughts.
that idea.
Oops.
We don't want to put too much in our minds.
Yeah. So what I would suggest then is move on to the next chapters with your conversation with Mark.
Yes.
And then let's schedule November to come back and really flesh out goodness and truth, and I want to get a really good understanding. I want you all to understand the role of each, because they each have their own individual role. And I want you to see how they all work together, and then how to bring it into the classroom.
I love it. That sounds great.
Okay.
The deeper the
Schedule
better.
something in November. You guys tell Con. I know November's like Thanksgiving for us, but I'm fine. I can do whatever works for you guys. We can figure something
Work out something. No, that's thank you. Thank you. Look, I just want to say thank you. Once again, Adrienne, I don't know about you all, but I'm just enthralled by this discussion today. I love hearing everyone's suggestions, and and thank you for recording it, Adrienne. And this is a great book. I wish I read this book 20 years ago, but I don't think it was written